Might use a slightly less good read when I'm playing for elementary school kids.
We'll just keep that between us. No one will have to know.
So maybe my older read makes its way onto my oboe, but yeah. But in general, I'm using the same darn reeds the whole time, and so I'm pretty well in shape. Right now, I'm not in shape with COVID going on, because I think we're all in the same boat. Like it's not the same, but I'm trying to find things to be excited about. Probably the same for you guys in this time with playing, and trying to motivate myself outside of having the pleasure of playing for people, which is my main passion.
I'm getting ready for a recital in the park. We're playing 15 minutes of music in 2 weeks, and it's the most exciting thing that's happened to me in 6 months.
You enjoy that.
Oh my gosh, I'm so in awe of how many plates you have to keep spinning there with the ensemble. And sometimes we forget all the work that goes into keeping an ensemble like that afloat, writing grants and travel arrangements, all of that stuff. And you're a mom and a wife, and you have to just, you have all these plates that you got to keep spinning. But do you have any other secrets for how you can, maintain healthy balance between reed making and playing and just life?
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I'm doing well, sometimes this doesn't happen, but when I'm doing well, every time I'm watching TV, I'm making reeds. That's my treat to myself. That's my promise to myself. If I'm watching TV, I'm either sharpening my knives or I'm making reeds, and I might toot quietly, but that's how I do it. And
and you get a mom.
Definitely. But she makes me watch all these YouTube videos, these YouTube influencers. So
it's a trade-off.
Right, exactly. So that's one thing. And then as far as playing goes, try to be super smart and efficient in my warm-up so that I'm doing things, not just things that I know I can do pretty well, but I'm doing my long tones, doing a specific arpeggio that I know I'm going to need for a certain piece. I try to be as specific as possible with my warm-ups so that I can be ready to go when I need to perform.
If you could go back in time, do you have any read advice that you would give to a younger version of yourself?
That's a great question. Let's see. I would say, well, you know what? I feel like I did a really good job because when I was in high school, I really wasn't taught to make reeds, so at all. So I was lucky enough that the teacher at Oberlin accepted me anyway, even though I wasn't a reed maker. And so I spent hours upon hours upon hours in the reed room, the oboe reed room. I did far more reed making than practicing at that point. And I spoke to different, my fellow students there, and they showed me things, and my teacher showed me things. And I listened to a lot of different music and found the sound that I wanted to get to, and played along with recordings like a call and response way. So I would listen to Alain Duvas play. This one happens to be relevant to me. So Barbara's summer music, a great wind quintet. I listened to how she phrased it, and then I phrased it afterwards. And I said, okay, why is this reed not be able to do this? So that really helped me. And then when I got to grad school, again, I was still making lots of reeds in New York, but my teacher, Joe Robinson, was very generous to me and gave me reeds so that I could see what a professional oboist's reeds were like. So his reeds were different from mine, so I had to make some adjustments. But I think that way of playing on his reeds were really, really helpful to develop my potential playing power.
So Joe Robinson was one of your mentors in reed making. Who are your other mentors?
Alex Klein was James Caldwell's sabbatical replacement my freshman year. So he showed me a little bit of reed making. But then I had a terrific senior. Her name was Rebecca Schweigert, and I think she's out in, I'm not sure where she is. Colorado.
I know her. She's in Cleveland. I played a lot with her.
Right.
Yeah.
I had her as a reed tutor, and so she helped me as well. And then when I got to New York, it was Joe all the way. And so it was those, I would say Becky, Jimmy first, like he's my main reed guru. And then Becky was helpful. And then Joe just changed everything around. And now I'm a combo.
Right. Yeah, I think we all kind of become combinations to some extent of all of the influences we have along the way. And it's just...
Right. And do you guys find that it's not so much about Philadelphia style and New York style or Chicago style or Cleveland style anymore?
That's an excellent question, because I talk about that with my students all the time. You know, I was raised in the Chicago style. They're definitely melding more. The division is less noticeable. I don't know. How do you feel, Courtney?
I do feel the same. Yeah.
Right. And they all have students, like all these great Chicago, Cleveland, New York, Philly people. They have students who go and teach at Kansas and and at Indiana and elsewhere. And I've heard some terrific oboists at South Carolina and Georgia and from, of course, from Atlanta. And, you know, they're just fabulous players all over. And also, you know, what I think is part of it is that whole thing I'm saying too about having the recordings at your disposal from YouTube, so you can listen to different styles and pick and choose what you want. So that's a tremendous thing that's, I think, melding the sounds too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think some students don't realize how lucky they are to have those recordings so accessible. It's not like the old days when you have to go to the record store. That was before my time.
Just like, right, of course. Yeah, I mean, like that was part of the reason that there were such separate schools, because you were hearing the Philadelphia Orchestra play if you were if you were a Temple. You were hearing them, and you weren't necessarily hearing the Cleveland Orchestra. Maybe you'd hear them once a year when they came through town, if that. So, you know, and plus there's so fewer players out there. So there's all sorts of variations on this now. And I think that's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, back to your career with the Imani Winds, I have often wondered, because this is a pet peeve of mine, having to talk and play on the same recital. When you're with the Imani Winds, I've seen you not only talk, I've seen you get up and kind of move around, like with the Josephine Baker production. Sometimes you're in costume. And then, like you say, you go from an outreach concert in the morning to a professional concert in the evening. You alluded to having a longer tip on your reed, but that can't be all there is. There's got to be more to how you managed to be so successful and sound so awesome all the time when you've got all those different kinds of playing that you have.
Well, yeah, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. I'm some days I'm more successful than others at sounding good. That's for sure.
It's all in your mind. You always sound good.
Right. But I think honestly, you know, Margaret, it's for sure it's not just the longer tip. My reeds are very vibrant, of course, and all that is true, but it's two things. And I keep coming back to it, but it's true. I just F it when I play. I just go for it, and I don't worry about it. And because I've got the support behind my sound, I've thought very, very hard about how I support my sound and where it comes from exactly on my body. I know exactly where on my tongue I'm articulating. I've thought really hard about my throat, my chest, my shoulders. And all of that, I'm using my body as a soundboard for my sound. And that is how I am able to sound fairly regularly the same, is by using my body as a part of my instrument beyond the reed. So the F it goes to, I'll stop saying that now. Because maybe you guys in the pie listeners are like, enough with the F it. It's not F it. I'm thinking about other things. Yeah. And I'm also thinking about expressivity and trying to bring out the character of the composers and all that stuff. And that is my magic. That's my sweet spot, is all of that stuff. So I don't mean to not talk about the reeds. So let's see, what else can I say about my reeds? Because this is a reed podcast. But I think part of it is the opposite, right? Like part of reeds is living with how you deal with them.
Actually, you're talking about exactly the things that we hope to bring out in this podcast, because there's so many books written about reed making, but it's what you do with the reed. It's your interaction with the reed that's very important. Thank you for sharing all of this. One more quick, perhaps reed-related question, and it's about doubling and making quick switches on stage. Do you have any advice for those of us who have to make those inevitable quick changes during a concert?
Yeah, so here's the awesome bit about being in your own band and having people write music for you. I tell them to give me a relatively large amount of time to switch. So
nice.
Or I request that of them. So I've tried many different English horn and oboe stands, and the rest of the band, or some of the members of the band, make fun of me because I never use a stand. Brandon, our flute player, and I, we share a piano bench in between us, and he puts his piccolo on there or his alto flute, and I put my English horn or whatever I'm not playing on the piano bench. When I warm up for a concert where I know I'm going to have English horn in it, I warm up my oboe first, and then I warm up my English horn last. So because I know the English horn is going to sit there for a while.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and somehow I always like the way I sound after I play English horn even better. It just sounds more dark and deep because, again, the setup is different. So I'm thinking more dark and deep in sound, and so I don't mind that, the English horn. And I'm talking like 5 minutes of English horn before I go out on stage. I'll have warmed up the English horn before, but then I do 5 minutes before I go on stage. Oh, and as far as reeds go for English horn, right before I play it, like right before the movement where I have English horn, or the piece where I have English horn, I'll just dip it real quick. If I have a second, I will blow kind of, it's not the way you're supposed to do it, but you know, it's crunch time. I'll blow pretty hard, and I'll put my oboe and everything together. I'll blow pretty hard through the vocal or through the reed and get some warm, hot air going through it down the bottom of the back of the instrument, just to make sure that it's as warm as it can possibly be.
Right. You just don't want to pick up a really cold instrument for intonation, and just for the safety of the instrument as well. Oh, okay.
But I'm blowing hard.
I wish I'd paid a little more attention to that the last time I watched your concert.
Now, hopefully you can't really tell. I'm blowing nice hot air.
That's great. Well, do you have any other parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I kind of said it earlier, but I think we need to spend less time worrying about reeds and more about how we're going to express ourselves through these instruments, and how we're going to play with heart. Yeah. And play with interaction with our other fellow musicians on the stage. I think being in a large ensemble can be kind of lonely sometimes. So I feel, but it can also feel like, at the best of times, it feels like a wonderful team that you're working with together. So I would focus more on that and worry less about reeds when the performance comes. Also, if you're a student, realize that you're going to be making reeds super late at night sometimes. And so, or as an adult, when you've got, I don't have a baby anymore. My daughter's 11, but when I had a small child, I was just grabbing whatever second I could. So I tried to time when I would make reeds around when I had enough energy to focus on it. So let's say late at night, I only have the energy to like move my knife around in a circle on a stone. That's all I can really focus on. But if I happen to have some minutes in the afternoon that I can finish a reed, I'll do that. So timing of what you're doing is important as well.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today on Reed Talk. We really appreciate you being here and for all your wonderful sage advice.
Oh, I hope it's helpful to somebody. I just feel like it's such a burden for us. And people are writing such harder music these days for us too. Like they're not caring about it as much as they used to. And I think that's a good thing. Like it helps us get out of our heads a little bit.
Thanks, everyone.